You got to work hard. You got to play hard.
I don't have anything else to say. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever podcast of what Aaron and I have wanted to start, Work Hard, Play Harder. And we are super excited to be doing this together in front of you and with you, and that is our plan. Aaron, this is going to be really fun. I've been looking forward to this for months. We finally got our studio done. Yep. We got our lights in, our audio, everything in a great place. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it, and it's been finding the right time to make sure everything's set perfectly, so hopefully you don't mess it up too bad.
Yeah, I'm going to try really hard not to. So, hey, listen, this is going to be a podcast where us as two entrepreneurs share our journey, our learnings, our background. We're going to be frank. We're going to be vulnerable. We're going to be raw. We're going to be as uncut as possible. Certainly we'll have to edit some things and because we want things to be right. We both have a certain level of expertise and
good in different fields too. We've come from two different backgrounds where you're good at specific things and I'm good at specific things, and I think combined that gives a lot of value to people that they can take from our experiences, our defeats.
Sure.
Yeah,
so what you can expect to learn on this podcast is, number one, you're going to hear about our learnings as business leaders and entrepreneurs. We're going to take past experiences. We'll talk about those. We're going to take current experiences from the businesses that we share in. And we're going to talk about where we win and where we lose. But what's also important to both of us, Aaron, is not just the work hard side of our lives, but also the play harder side. And it's having that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that was most important to me when I started Indie Roof Company, is just making sure that, hey, you take some time to enjoy all of the hard work that you do, and you do things that make you happy, and you spend time with your family and different things like that. So we want to get into that. It'll be us today, but when we do have guests in the future, that's something that we want to dig into as well. Like, how do you enjoy your life outside of work? It's not all about work.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we hear episode 1? We've talked a little bit about some of the things that we can, that we hope to display in this podcast. But in your words, why are we really doing this? Why do you want to do this?
I feel like there's been a lot of learning curves throughout my life with all the different things that I've done. And so I want to be able to translate that information to maybe help some other people avoid some of the issues that we've had, learn how to maybe hit some of the wins that we've done. And then we're starting multiple businesses as well currently while we're doing this. So it'll be an experience to say, hey, this worked or this didn't work. And basically not only just say, hey, this is what we've done in the past, but this is currently what we're doing, and we're learning almost together on these different things.
For sure. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to do some studio stuff. Like you already mentioned, we're going to have guests on here as well. But then we're also going to do some live, or I shouldn't say live, I guess it would be more like on location.
Field work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's going to be a pretty good variety here of what we're going through in life and how we're managing through it. And again, where we're succeeding, where we had some bumps on the noggin, so to speak, and where to go from there, and how do you handle that? So we're excited for this, and we hope that you are too. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to this podcast, and that way you get notifications whenever we release new content.
I always see people say like and subscribe, and now we officially get to say,
I know, right?
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Don't the coolest ones like smash that like button?
Yeah, like right here. Can you put it right below us? It's boom, hit this button right here. I don't know if that'll work or not, but anyway. So, I think the first thing to do is just for the people that don't know us, let them get to know us a little better and kind of tell our stories on this first episode, so they have a feeling of, our different backgrounds and what our strong suits are and where we came from, and kind of maybe even how we linked up.
Yeah, and this I'm excited for this. I always love talking about this because Aaron and I are very similar in a lot of ways, and then we are also polar opposites in a lot of ways, which actually is very complementary of each other. We've been working together now for
Just over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year now, and we didn't know each other prior to this, to coming together either. And it's been a great marriage, so to speak, that we've had in the last 15 months.
Yep.
And so why don't we start there? You want to go first, and maybe not yet about how we linked up together, but just your background, where you come from, because again, we've got two different backgrounds that we're coming about our business practices from. So where did it all begin?
So, I was a little different in high school. I was pretty ADHD,
Yeah.
and I never knew exactly what I was going to do with my life. I was a talker. I got in trouble for talking a lot.
Yeah.
Super talkative, but that actually managed to work out for me later in life since I got into sales.
Turns out that's a skill set that both of us share, by the way, and that was a detriment to our schooling careers, but is a valuable asset to our now business careers.
Yeah, exactly. So I never went to college. I actually started working for my dad's business immediately. And I graduated at 17, started working for him at 17. And I was just working like the shipping department, just they sold stuff and it was educational materials and I would ship them all out. And after like 6 months of doing that, I'm like, this sucks. I want to do sales. Like that seems cool. They're making money. And I asked him to do sales. I'm 18 at the time and everybody else is 25 to 50.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know, like I'm selling education. You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't even selling,
What experience do you bring to the table, son?
I'm not selling tanning beds. I'm selling people education.
Right.
And I was like, no, man, I want to do it. And I learned all the stuff and started selling. And I loved it. And I was good at it. I went through all of this stuff. And I ended up being, I don't know about the first year. It was probably in the middle of the year. But the year after, my first full year, I was the top sales producer. And then I was there for 16 years in full. And every year that I was there, I was the top sales producer. So, and I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not the smoothest, best sales guy on the planet. I'm a good talker and I'm comfortable talking, but I always found the easiest ways to do things.
Yeah.
Like the easiest ways to explain things, the easiest way to get in front of people, which ultimately is marketing, right? Like how do you get in front of people? And so we did this, like I said, I was there for 16 years, but the company evolved over the years. And it started with people buying materials and you just shipping them to the house. And then as technology got better and different things evolved, well, first, before technology, we set up campuses around the country. And I would travel out to the campuses and talk to people about, hey, these credits are the ones that you need in order to receive this particular degree.
Yeah.
Now, I would look at their transcripts and figure that out and then sign them up for whatever classes they need to finish the degree. Mostly what I worked with was a nursing degree. And so I did that for years, and then we would go to these campuses, and that was a lot of traveling, home week, gone week, which was awesome because I was young and single, and I got travel points, and I got hotel points, like airline points. So I would actually end up, like, let's say I was working in Florida, right? And I had seminars from Monday to Thursday. Well, they're already paying for a ticket. I'd like, just book me a plane ticket back on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would...
Sounds like a terrible life
Right.
for a young man.
for a young single guy, right? So, and then I would book a hotel with my points for the weekend. So I'd work all week and then I'd hang out, in Florida for the weekend and have a good time. And then I'd fly back on Sunday. Absolutely awesome. As time went on, technology got better and then it turned to online classes. All these things you hear about, like Blackboard and Teachable, all these different platforms. Well, instead of having these campus locations, it all transferred online, which obviously saves a lot of money. And you can have teachers and teaching multiple people across the country instead of maybe one class with one person in it.
Yeah.
Right. So that was awesome. But then I got married. Then I had kids. And home a week, gone a week, home a week, gone a week isn't as cool when you're married and you have to look at your wife and your kids crying every Sunday when you leave. But like I said, I went right into the work field. I didn't have a college degree and I'm making really good money. I'm making six figures. So in my mind, I'm like, where can I go and make six figures where I'm not traveling all the time? So that's, I mean, that kind of leads to a lot of the different things. Like change is scary,
Yeah.
like really scary. Like, you know, what you're comfortable with, to go out and do something different, like, is almost crippling.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're making good money in six figures and you've become, you know, accustomed to a specific lifestyle. Like, you're like, okay, like, I need to keep this up. I don't want to change it, but the traveling and different things. So it's an internal struggle. It's a battle, you know?
Yeah, it's not only just the change aspect of it, but within the change, there's immense risk
For sure.
because of the change.
Exactly. So eventually there were some things that happened, I think around 2016, where we decided not to work together. And I decided, hey, if I want to do this, I need to start my own business. And so I actually originally started a furniture store. My wife's father had a furniture dealership license, right? And we used to, like, when we bought a house or whatever, we'd use that and go get furniture. Furniture is a racket.
Yeah.
It's like jewelry. It's like a 300 and something% markup. It is absolutely wild. I'm like, there's great margins.
Ever since you've been telling me that, it makes me sick.
It will make you sick when you find out the truth, you know? And like, it's like when you find out, like, oh, hey, we bought our first house after we got married. I went and, like, filled up my entire house, like beds for us, one kid, the living room, everything. It's like $3,500.
Yeah. Can't even buy a couch
Can't
for
get a
that.
couch for that. You know, so I decided to start a furniture store, and I did that. And then while I was, like, building it out and kind of getting all that stuff in play, a friend of mine, Mark Zopke, was like, hey man, do you want to sell some roofs? I was like, I love selling stuff. I can make some money, help fund this furniture store, do some stuff. And I was like, cool. So we spent the winter of 2017 just studying YouTube and stuff. So to back up a little bit, a guy that, like, one guy, one truck type company, was also an insurance adjuster. So he was leaving the state.
In the roofing business here in Indiana.
He owned a roofing company.
Yeah.
But he was also an insurance adjuster. So he left. I'm sorry. Yeah, he was. And so he left to go adjust claims. And, like, there was a hurricane on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so he went out there, and he was like, he had just met Mark and was like, hey man, can you run this company for me while I'm gone? Like, seriously, like, is that crazy? And Mark's like, what do I do? He's like, just go and, like, take some photos and send me and I'll help you, blah, blah, blah. So Mark's like, do you want to sell some roofs with me? So I'm like, sure. So we spend that winter learning as much as possible. Like, it all came from YouTube, you know, research, just everything on our own, trying to figure out as much as possible. We did that throughout the winter, couple months, January, February, and then this guy comes back around March and does, like, 2 or 3 days with us, just kind of teaching us some stuff. And then I went out and started talking to people, like, sold a couple roofs, and the whole time I'm, like, trying to get this furniture store off the ground.
Yeah, so you're trying to manage and navigate through both.
I'm juggling two things at this time. Like, it's like 18-hour
and young
days.
kids and
Yeah, a lot of it. So I went and sold, like, 2 or 3 roofs, I think, and then they're just the compatibility for that person and myself wasn't there. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to focus on the furniture store, my own thing. And I went back and was running the furniture store for about a month or two. And then about, 2 months in, I got a call from a realtor I had talked to while I was selling roofs. They're like, hey, I got a roof that I need you to put on. And I was like, I'm not doing the roofs anymore. Brushed it off. And then another 2 or 3 weeks later, another realtor calls me. They're like, hey, I got this roof I want you to do. I'm like, I'm not doing them anymore. But after I told them no, I got thinking, and I was like, what's it hurt to have a roofing company that, like, when these people call me,
yeah,
I can do
nothing to market, but when it comes to me, why pass it up?
why turn down business?
Right.
And so I went ahead and made a company real quick and just set it up like that. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, somebody called me and or a referral, and we did the roof, and it went great. That was cool. And then August 28th of 2018, Indiana got hit with
date that will live in infamy.
Infamy. I'll never forget that date. So a hailstorm comes through and hits the northern side out to the east side of Indianapolis. And so I was like, I got this roofing company. Let's see what happens. And I did some guerrilla marketing to some realtors, different things. And the next day I had like 15 inspections. And then my name was just traveling through the realtor community. And I went out and I did all of this stuff. And I realized, like, long story short, in that month period, that I liked roofing way more than I liked selling mattresses in a store all day.
Fit the personality a little bit better.
I told you at the beginning of the story, I'm a little ADHD, right?
Right.
Sitting in a store all day talking to people about discount mattresses is not fun. Great margins if you do it right, not fun to do. So I ended up deciding just to go all in on roofing. And I closed the furniture store, went all in on the roofing company, started working, did everything by myself, had a big learning curve over the next year, but I did everything myself, figured it out. And I'm one of those guys that's like, you don't want to mess up, but when you do, you'll never do it again because you do not like the way it feels to look like an idiot.
100%.
You know, you know what I mean? Like it's a bad feeling. So I messed up a couple times, did some stuff, said some dumb stuff that people are like, how long have you been doing this type of deal? But I just kept continuing to go to classes and watch content online and go to conventions and just consumed as much knowledge as humanly possible. Like, my family is depending on me to be successful, and I'm not going to let them fail. And I think that's the ultimate thing in life, is just making the decision. Like, have you ever heard the term, burn the ships?
Yeah, it's literally what I had in my mind.
Yeah, burn the ships. So it was like Cortez came over and to conquer part of Mexico, and they literally burned their ships because they're like, we're doing this. There's no way out. It's either forward or we die. Yeah. And that's, I think, a good analogy for the things that you have to do. Because if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to try this, once somebody says try, it's over. Because they already in their mind aren't committed to it.
They've carved a path to either an excuse or a path back to comfort.
Right, exactly. So you have to say, I'm doing this no matter what it takes. And that's what I did. And I continued to do that throughout. And for 2 years almost by myself, learning everything, doing everything, and consuming every part of the business that I could do. And then I felt like, hey, I'm at a point where I want to start hiring some people.
Yeah, what was that like? So, it's one thing when you start a business and it's just you and you're very comfortable with that level of risk because you got a lot of confidence in yourself that I can dig my way out of pretty much anything.
Right.
But now your business is at a point where, okay, can't necessarily do it on my own. I got to bring somebody else in. So now not only do you have to be responsible for your own family, you're responsible for someone else's family.
That was the scariest part of anything I had done in this entire business, is making the decision to bring on W-2 full-time people and have them and their families dependent on how I did.
Yeah.
Because I was the guy selling.
Yeah.
I think I had 2 part-time 1099 guys. Actually, Mark Sopke, which works for us today, the guy that introduced me to roofing, he was all selling. But he's 1099. He straight commission. Yeah. Like, if he doesn't sell anything, no big deal.
He knew the risk. That's.
I wasn't saying here, but when we had brought actual W-2 people, I was like, that was scary.
Yeah.
And still, I take it personal today. Like, that's why I do a lot of things I do. Like, I want to make sure everybody here is successful. Like, because I feel like I'm responsible
for sure
for what them and their families have from us. So, like, I'll give them every opportunity. Now, whether they choose to capitalize on that opportunity or not is a different story. But, like, I'm giving you everything that you need to be successful. If I feel like there's something missing, like, please, or if somebody thinks there's something missing, like, please tell me. I would love to make it better for you. But so, off track. That was the scariest part, is bringing those people on. But I did. Fortunately, we had another storm. Things went well, and we just started building from there. So, I mean, it's kind of a crazy story on how we got started, because I would have never thought I'd be a roofer. If you told me I was a general contractor, 5 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. So.
I still laugh at you actually being a general contractor,
right?
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Anyway, can you fix that thing for me?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really fun. Whenever I tell this story to people, and I love telling the Indie Roof Company story, and the Aaron Christie story, because I think that it's just so fascinating. But I always jokingly and lovingly say that the business was started on accident.
Yeah. I mean, it almost was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to go down this this furniture store avenue, which you know, based on your research, was the right thing to do. Great profit margins and all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of made the decision, well, I can augment my income by not turning work away. I'm not going to market it necessarily or anything, but at least let me not turn away money.
Right.
And and here we are today, the one of the fastest, if not the fastest, growing roofing company in the state, certainly in Central Indiana.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. It's like you said, man. It was one of those things that did just happen like that, but it's been a blessing.
Yeah, it's that connectivity to purpose.
Yeah.
And being able to live that out, I think, is really what it boils down to. When you can connect into something that you know, you look at it as a calling, or like I said, as a purpose, and that's when the joy and fulfillment comes, and then that's when it's not really work. This is a calling. This is my passion.
For sure.
And you've certainly found that here, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So cool. I got my story out, and then we'll go through your story, and then we'll merge the two.
Yeah. So, I think that's great. As you're talking, I was like, oh, wow, this is gonna play out pretty nicely, because stop at June 10th, 2021.
Right.
And then I'll tell my story, and then that's where we'll merge. So, again, little bit different background, but the same. So in school, I was talkative. I'll never forget in third grade. There's a lot of stuff that I won't forget about my childhood, but one of the things that I remember was in third grade. I can't remember the teacher's name, but we used to have like the conduct slips that would like hang on the wall, and like you'd have to cut it down.
I don't think we had those.
Okay, so we had conduct slips. So it started off, you had an A, and then like if you were bad or you talked too much or whatever, like you had to cut it down. They made you cut
your own
oh yeah,
like you
had to
trouble.
Go up in front of the class.
Then you had to walk over all sad.
Walk of shame, yeah. And I remember, I got like a D for that semester. This is third grade. I remember my dad being like, "It's conduct. It's literally just be good." And I don't even think at the time I knew what conduct meant.
Yeah, we did have conduct. I just didn't have the slips.
Yeah, it was really interesting. But no, I've always loved to talk. I've always loved to make people laugh, and that's just been a huge part of my life. But I went through school. I actually had a really hard time in school for a lot of years. I'll never forget. I love telling my story now, and I'll talk about the difference in it. But I had a fifth grade teacher. Who I remember, I won't even say her name. I remember her name. It's seared in my mind. But I remember in fifth grade her telling me, she was really, really rough on me and really tough on me. And I remember her telling me in fifth grade that I'd never amount to anything and things like that. And it was really, really tough. It actually made me really mad for a lot of years. And I felt like a lot of what I did in spite of that woman. Now I've kind of have like learned a little bit more about like forgiveness and all that, and like I don't want to do that as like a grudge match against her,
right.
Or in spite of her, anything along those lines, and all that. But that's something that's always been a driving force for me. It's like, no, I think I can be successful at a lot of different things, and that's not to say that it's necessarily in business or anything. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up until I'm still trying to answer that question.
So it's funny though, because that is another way that me and you are a lot alike. It's like, don't challenge me that I can't do something.
Oh, yeah.
Because I will do whatever it takes
to
win. So, I mean, honestly, I was probably good to you. As of now, with a lot of other people that don't have the same personalities, it may not be like the best thing to say. But with somebody, I think with your personality or my personality, like telling me I can't do something is the best thing that somebody can do.
And maybe she was the smartest teacher ever and already knew that about me. And that's what it was. So, who knows? But, I grew up, I started working a full-time job when I was 14 years old. My dad was in construction. He would build high-end hotels and things like that downtown Chicago. From time to time, their unions would see layoffs and things like that. And so when he wasn't doing that, he would go work with friends building homes and things like that. People that were at the church that we went to, and they were business owners and things like that. And so I was able to actually get plugged in at a pretty young age, full-time job. at 14 years old. My first job ever. So I've been in the construction industry from a hands-on perspective and literally have learned how to build a house from the ground up. My first job ever was actually working for a concrete company, and my job was to when the guys were done pouring concrete at the end of the day, they would bring the forms back for the foundations and everything, and I would have to clean all the concrete off of them and spray them down with diesel fuel and everything. It was like the dirtiest job that I'd ever had.
So you cleaned the concrete off with diesel fuel? Is that what you're saying?
Off of the forms, that they use. Yeah, you
I've never worked in
spray 'em down.
concrete. I don't know.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I learned how to do some concrete finishing and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into framing and then trim and drywall. And
Well, I'm glad
roofing and all
because
that kind of
you're
stuff. So
one of
that's
the
why I'm always
you're one of the
doing something
handiest guys around the office.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Well, so my parents, my grandparents, they grew up in the Great Depression era, and so it was literally, you don't hire people to do stuff for you. You need to learn how to do this,
Right.
And and just do it for yourself. And my parents were the greatest parents ever because both, again, very, very handy. They complement each other wonderfully, and they would build houses. And they when I was really young, I think I was 2 or 3 when they bought this house. That was a beautiful home on a lake. It was burnt down. We moved in with my grandparents, so we lived there while my parents would literally after work every night would go and rehab this house until it was done. And I would go with my parents, and there's like pictures of me at like 2 and 3 years old with like a wheelbarrow. My mom would tell me that, I would follow my dad with a, this little plastic wheelbarrow full of junk,
Right.
taking it to the dumpster. By the time I got to the dumpster, there was like one thing left.
It was
in
just a
'cause it's
trail.
just a trail of stuff. So, that just kind of became my life. I really was fascinated with mechanics and car mechanics and things like that. And so I spent a lot of time doing those types of things. But, like I said, learned how to build a house from the ground up. At a certain point in time, having conversation with my dad, and again, in the construction industry, he's like, hey, you're doing a great job. You know how to do all this stuff. You need to learn how to not just work with your hands. I think you might need to think about going to school and, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm a young man now. I'm 17, 18 years old, making way more money than any of my friends and all that kind of stuff. But, I took it under advice. And his words were, get out of this before it makes an old man out of you.
Right.
Long before you are.
Right.
And
Which
so I
was
like,
good of
okay.
him to do that instead
for
of
sure.
pushed him out to be better.
For sure. So I moved from the Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana, the region, as they say, down to Indianapolis for school. I actually moved down to school, was going to go down a whole different path, went to a Bible college and went for a degree in theology, and was going to get involved in ministry and all of that. Met the love of my life, who we're still married today. We'll celebrate 18 years this coming November. Now we've got 2 kids, but we ended up getting married and created a life down here.
Hold on real quick.
Sure.
You're going to get me in trouble by doing that. So it's like I didn't ever say that I met the love of my life.
You wanna go back?
I kind of glazed over the whole part. I said I got married and had kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love you, Whitney. Anyway, go
There
ahead.
we go. Just, Andrew, that was for you. So we, an interesting story. What's very funny about how Andrew and I met, we met on February 26th of 2003. We were engaged on May 26th of
Fast is what you mean.
21, and married on November 13th of, I said 21. It was 2003.
He knows
sorry.
the dates, I
Yeah.
promise.
So, so all in the same year, 7 months, met the girl, married the girl, and so then had to get to work, right? And went back into doing some
Yeah.
construction and things like that. Did audio, video, and alarms for a little while. And I'll never forget the job that I was working on. I was working on an NFL football player's home.
Who was it?
Jeff George.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I know someone who's related to him. And the moment that I decided to really change my career was working in his home. It was a framed home. We were pulling wire in there for an audio video system. I was in like ankle deep water without rubber boots. And it was late.
Why are,
I think
why
it was
are
like
you
mid-November.
ankle deep water in his home?
Because we were pulling wire. It's just a framed house.
Oh, a framed house. Okay.
Yeah. So we're pulling wire, and it had, kind of raining and snowing and everything.
Gotcha.
It was freezing cold. I remember being at the top of a ladder and almost tears, literally tears, and thinking, this is absolutely ridiculous. That day, I got in the car, was driving home. I called one of my best friends, who's actually my wife's uncle, Tim Breed, and I said, hey, you got to help me find a job in sales. I feel like I'm pretty good at talking with people. You got to help me. And he did. He got me linked up with an authorized dealer of a security provider in Ohio. My first sale ever was tricking those guys into thinking I was the best guy to help them start an office in Indianapolis. They were based in Cincinnati, and I did good enough. And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll give you the job. And so I helped them start an office here in Cincinnati. And that's kind of when that building business excitement kind of launched in me.
Yeah.
And did that for several months, was going really well, was having a phone conversation with the owner of that company. Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. By the way, we just sold the company.
How long were you there for that?
It was, I want to say, like 8 months. It wasn't long before they sold the company.
So just as you're getting your groove.
Yeah, just as I'm getting my groove and feeling like I'm figuring things out. And yeah, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. And he even said, my job was door-to-door sales at that time. He was like, you're doing better than any new hire we've ever hired on door knocking. Keep up the great work. By the way, literally, by the way, that's how by the way,
yeah,
we just sold the company.
Like it was.
And I'm like, whoa, hey, what?
Like it was nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And so, my personality, I had an instant response. I'd already actually been through an acquisition of one of the companies that I'd been through, and it was just an awful experience. And so I told him, I said, that's great to hear. By the way, this is my 2-week resignation. And he was like, no, you gotta stay. We think you're going to be a really good fit for this new company. And I said, well, I'm not going to make any promises or sign a contract or something, but I'll try it out. And so I did, for the next 16 years, try it out. And it was,
that's the longest tryout ever.
No, it was really cool and a huge blessing. What was really interesting was at that time, Andrea, we found out, was pregnant with our first son, Jackson, and we didn't have insurance at the time.
Right.
And so we were a little panicky about that. Well, this new company called Defenders buys the company where I was working, and they gave me retroactive seniority, which meant that I was able to start insurance immediately that day upon signing paperwork, and all of a sudden we had insurance, which was a blessing and a huge blessing. So it was really cool. And then so for the next 16 years, when I started there, this would be 2002, beginning of 2006.
Wow. Okay.
Is when this was all taking place, and Defenders was I think we were about somewhere between a $20 and $30 million business. So right around where we're at today.
Right.
And we were just Midwest, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, and maybe a splash of another state or here or there, whatever.
And to clarify for everybody, what exactly are you doing?
Home security.
Security.
It was home security. I was still in sales at the time. Was still in sales, selling for them. Now they were transitioning from doing a door knocking model to doing more of a call center model. Okay. They're having a really good success pattern with doing telemarketing and things along those lines. And so, it was fun for the next 16 years. That business grew, or let me say that the revenues grew from around that $20 to $30 million mark to $650 million plus by the time the
pesos.
No, the U.S. dollars.
Dineros.
U.S. dollars, my friend. It was fun.
That is a big growth.
It was huge growth, and it was founded on a lot of the things that we talk about here at Indy Roof Company now, that businesses don't grow, people do, and that's what the founders of that business were sold out in believing was businesses don't grow, people do, which is something that we talk about here now on a regular basis. Yes. And it was fun to be in that environment because when you're a part of a rocket ship like that, you don't have time to hire people, so everyone's doing everything. You're trying to hire people, and you're trying to get the right people on the bus. And we always talked about just get them on the bus. We'll find the right seat for them later. Like just hire for culture, and we'll figure it out at a later time.
Right, which I love.
Yeah, and again, something that we do here now. And so having the opportunity to literally learn every aspect of a business that was growing that quickly was just absolutely incredible. From sales to customer experience to operations to leadership development to HR to back to sales to, back to customer experience leadership and in just a lot of different facets.
It's like a
It was so
fire
fun.
hose of knowledge.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was crazy. But, the company invested in the team members and enabled us to, further our educations and further our development as leaders and to figure it out. And it was a lot of fun. And so ultimately the time came when in 2019, the business sold to the provider in which it was selling security systems for. And, so I had to make a decision. I was privileged to work on the team where we were working on the acquisition of the company, which was fun. And then after the acquisition, which actually happened on my seniority date, which was January 6th. So on my 16th anniversary was when the company officially inked the deal that we were acquired.
You think you were the lucky charm?
Well, look, I'm just going to say this. We had this awesome timeline in one of our hallways, and it was funny because the company was founded in 1998, and had some moderate growth and all that kind of stuff. But the explosion came in like 2006, and I'm like, that's the year that I was hired. I'm not saying,
just saying,
I'm not saying I had that much to do with it, but I'm just saying there was something that we can put a check mark to. No, it was an awesome team with awesome leaders and just everyone rowing the same direction.
Right.
And yeah, so the business gets acquired. I helped with that and learned so much, which was so much fun, and so much stress all at the same time. You don't know what's going to happen. You hear about acquisitions from public companies and how things go, and so it was scary at the same time.
Out of that 16 years, what do you think is the most important thing that you learned during your entire tenure? Put you on the spot.
Man, there's too much to say. There's one thing because there is so much. To simplify it,
Yeah.
businesses don't grow, people do, and to stay committed to that.
So that goes along
Because
with
you
hiring.
have to have that growth mindset.
Right. Hiring for culture, making sure that those people are then you expand their knowledge and make them better so that the company itself becomes better.
100%. Yeah. So I'd say that's the biggest thing. But then there's just so much.
And I think that, the generality of, one nugget from that, I think that was a good example. We use it today.
We do.
So I didn't know that you were going to pick that when I said it,
Yeah.
but it's super solid. And it's something that, we've implemented here. So
yeah, no, it's true. So then we go through the acquisition. I get to stay on for a little while, to help with the integration. 15 months I stayed on with the integration, which was, again, fun and rewarding in a lot of ways, stressful and frustrating in a lot of ways. But all in all, as I've always told the teams that I coach for my kids, and I think I just mentioned this the other day to you, you're either winning or you're learning. Losing is not an option.
right.
And so I was able to learn a lot in those experiences as well. But ultimately, was offered a position to stay on, but I just didn't feel that it was the right thing to do for me and my family. And my wife and I, we agreed on it. It was a prayerful decision, and so we decided to leave and had no prospects whatsoever when I was like, we're leaving.
That's, again, were you scared at all? Like, or did you just feel like, hey, it's the time, I'll figure it out?
I'll be honest with you, from a prayerful perspective, like I had an overwhelming peace about it, but then from like just a thought prospect, like, yeah, it was, I had teenage kids, a wife, a life we've come accustomed to, and all, like, how are we gonna do that? But ultimately I felt really good about it. I knew it was the right decision. So yes, uneasy, but I knew it was the right decision.
I think in reality, it's all a mindset, because when I realized I was going to be, doing something completely different, like I was scared.
Yeah.
Scared. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm trying to figure it out. You're running through all of the stuff in your brain, like, all of the problems, what could happen, this, that, the other. But I went to bed and a peace came over me. I woke up the next day and was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And I just went on, this plan of, these are the things, these are the ideas or whatever. But it didn't even matter at that point. My mind my mindset had shifted to not like, oh my gosh, no, but like I can do this and I'm excited to do it. So mindset is a huge factor in these type of
it's
deals.
that. I think it's a clear direction or goal or purpose. When you're targeted at that, everything just kind of gets clear on where you need to be.
Agreed.
And so, to speak about purpose, I had a great leader, throughout those 16 years, I had many great leaders, but one great leader that really challenged me and my colleagues and peers to have our internal purpose. And I learned that my internal purpose through years of trying to come up with this statement, but I came up with a purpose statement for myself, and that is to help people maximize their full potential. And that's what I feel that I'm called to do. Go back to that ministry thing where I started, where I thought it was going to be kind of more of a pulpit ministry kind of thing, like a preacher thing.
Right.
And then I realized that ministry can happen anywhere. And it can especially happen and needs to happen within business. And so I've looked at it that way. And so helping people maximize their full potential is what I'm called to do. And I didn't feel like I could do that at that big organization. And that was ultimately why I was like, no, I know it's the right time to leave.
Right.
And I had all kinds of people like, you can't leave. You'll never find a job, working for a public company, making the money that you're making and all that kind of stuff. And you have those kinds of people in your ear, and it gets nerve wracking.
I bet
you're
it
like,
does.
oh my gosh, are they right?
Well, that sets off your brain, which again goes back to what I'm talking about. It's the mindset, you know what I mean? And so they're over here chewing on this, which is making you second guess.
Yeah.
Some of these
And they're looking at it
decisions
from
and
their
things.
perspective.
No, exactly. And maybe with their mindset, they believe that's the best possible thing. So
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things is being happy with what you're doing. Back to my original thought is just making sure that you're doing something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
When I started this company, and I realized how much I loved it, and it wasn't just a job to me. I realized I was like, hey, you know what? Even if I'm not making multiple six figures like I was, as long as I'm making enough to maintain my life, like my mental health, my happiness is there. That's what's most important.
Yeah. What is that number? There's a number out there that like, as long as you have
$66,000.
Yeah, $66,000. Essentially, all your needs are covered.
Right.
And the rest is just a lifestyle that you kind
Now
of
with inflation and things, I don't know. Like 2 years ago, it was 66,000, but like nobody's life.
166,000.
But they're like everybody's life like isn't actually better after that point. You have nicer stuff.
Sure.
You have cooler stuff, but like you can eat, you have a home over your head, all of the things are covered with that. Right. And so like again, that's a statistic that's out there, but technically, you can have everything that you need to survive right there. So,
you got to be confident. You got to be confident in yourself and who you are, and that's why I think the phrase that money can't buy happiness. It can't.
We can do really cool stuff that makes me happy.
Yeah, I heard a comedian one time say, money can't buy happiness. It can buy a wave runner. Have you ever seen a sad person?
Yeah, have you ever seen a sad? Never.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so just to wrap it up, make the decision, leave the company. It was actually at my going away party, and this was now in the midst of COVID, mind you. So now I'm working from home. Not only am I not working at a company,
what were you doing from
with,
home, by the way? Oh, you're talking about the company.
Yeah,
still.
no, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I was still working for the company, at the large public company.
We'll get into that part later.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that. And
when I met you.
Oh yeah. And so decided to leave. We're going to my going away party, which was kind of a little bit taboo because it was in the middle of the pandemic. I had COVID like 9 days before that, and I was like, I'm not missing it. Sorry. There wasn't going to be any older people there anyways, though, so it ended up being good. But we're literally, my wife and I are driving there, and I'm like, what am I going to tell people when they ask, well, what are you doing? I can't just say, just nothing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell people I'm consulting. That sounds good, right? I'm a consultant.
It's a fancy title. I like it.
Yeah. And so I did. That's what I told people. 2 days later, I had a lady that I worked with call me. She said, hey, what are you consulting on? And I'm like, well, what do you need help with? Which is a great consultant question, by the way. She's like, well, my husband is the COO of a company that does bathroom remodels and things like that. He really needs help with some recruiting. Is that something you want to do? And that was an aspect that I led at the business, was recruiting.
Right.
And I said, yeah, sure, I would love to help him. So I get off that phone call, schedule a phone call. within 48 hours now, I've got my first client to recruit for. I'm like, this is cool. How the heck am I going to do this? And so I called a friend of mine. I'm like, hey, I need to get plugged into a contractor network. You know contractors, right? And he's like, yeah, I do. I can help you with that. By the way, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm consulting.
Consulting.
Yeah. He's
It's so like,
well, for what?
consulting.
He's like, for what? And I'm like, well, why? What do you need?
What do you need help consulting with?
Like, no, I know this guy. He's got a roofing company, and he needs help with consulting on culture and recruiting. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm consulting on.
It's a crazy story. Amazing.
Which, in fairness, like those are the things that I'm passionate about.
Right,
so
right.
so it worked out anyway. So that's when you and I connected, and Indy Roof Company became my second customer.
Yeah.
And
Is it second and last, or was there another one?
second
squeezing?
and last? Well, no, I had another one as well, as a third one. And so, we started having questions. In the meantime, by the way, going through this journey of like, I feel like I'm like in this immense faith journey because I stepped out onto nothing. And the father of the founder of the company that had sold called me. He was the chairman of a board of a company that did training and things like that. He said, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm consulting. Why? What's up? And he said, well, we've got a position at a company that we'd love, a president's position that we would love for you to apply to if you're open to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, hallelujah, Lord. The Lord has answered my prayers. This is my dream job. I'm going to do this. I know I'm a shoe-in. I know the people that are involved with it and all of that. Literally the next day, you call me and say, hey, I found the guy that I want to hire to run the business. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, there goes any commission I could have got. And
Yeah, you still get commission.
yeah. And I was like, well, who is it? And you were like, it's you. And I feel bad, but facts are the facts. I laughed
Let
at
me
you.
have it.
I laughed at you. And I was like, no, bud, not looking for a job right now. Because again, I had this other thing and familiar family, familiar business and all that kind of stuff. And we just kind of kept having conversations. You kept on coming at me, and I really wasn't coming about it from a negotiating standpoint. I thought that I was going to do the other thing.
I remember, like, I specifically, I was like, that's fine. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just come by?
Yeah.
And we'll meet, and I'll show you around so that you can recruit for me better. Mm-hmm. And I just want to show you these things and share the vision with you. And you're like,
It was a good tactic.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Not for you, but just to help you recruit better. I want to get you that commission, And then you came in, and we shared the vision. And
no, it was cool though. And what I fell in love with, and why it ended up making so much sense, was because what you talked about was what I was accustomed to, and why I left the big company because of what it didn't have.
Yeah.
And I'm only not saying the name just because it's a good company. It's just it wasn't for me. But you talked about, no, I want a company that's driven on culture and on people. And I was like, man, this feels like home and where I've been for the last 16 years. Like, this is just making sense. And I remember talking to Andrew, and I'm like, I got this guy offered me a role, and I think this one's the safe one over here, but this is really intriguing. And, it was actually really funny. I don't know if I've ever told you even this part.
Ooh,
like,
I
would literally be, like in prayer about stuff, and you would text me or you would call me, and I'm like, I don't know, God, you really got to give me a sign. And you would text me or call me. There was one time, I'm not kidding, I could take you to the couch cushion that I was on, just like crying and all that kind of stuff. Like, God, what am I going to do? You got to give me a sign. And I was like, I'm not even thinking about that roofing job if he doesn't talk to me about X, Y, and Z. And there was something very specific that I wanted. And you text me like, hey, do you have time to talk later today about X, Y, and Z? And I remember basically looking at my phone and being like, okay, I got you. and that was the decision where I was like, I think that this makes sense. And I was telling Andrea, and I was kind of afraid to tell her. I was like, because it was a bigger risk. An industry that I didn't necessarily know was, smaller. It wasn't the sure thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I should do the roofing thing. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so glad to hear you say that. I think you should too.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that either.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Was she afraid that it would get like too corporate get, or what were her thoughts? This is for me, guys. I've never heard this part. So
no, I think it was because, like I said, the other stuff was it's what was comfortable,
right?
And I needed to be challenged. One of the things, so I loved loved that company that I worked. I've loved the family that that helped me along the way, and so many others, by the way, not just me. I'm not going to act like I was something special, because they were just incredibly giving of the 2,500 people that worked there.
Right.
But I was able to learn a lot, and I was able to run in some specific circles, and become an associate partner of the business and things like that, which was just an immense blessing, and be very, very close with the founders and other executives and things like that. But being able to go to the other company would have been the sure thing, and I felt like I was already defined by that business. Like I was, in a lot of sense, like people would even call me Mr. Defenders. Like I did a lot of the video promotions. I did a lot of the, we had a culture day. So anytime anybody got hired, every Monday they would come into this class, and I would lead it. So I met every single new person in our business for years and years and years by doing it. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I felt like that became my identity. And I felt like my family and my faith kind of became second to that identity.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the prayerful part, that I felt the reassurance that you need a new identity, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this corporate thing.
Well, you know what's cool about all of that though is when I shifted over, and the same as when you shifted over, it's like home services to an extent, but it's a totally different genre, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy in business how much these different things that we're going to talk about on the show are interchangeable.
Right.
Your sales, your marketing, your processes, your systems, the things that you do in leadership. It's all interchangeable.
It's transferable. That was something that was like, so, then I start here and I'm like, well, shoot, Aaron thinks I'm like this big stud of, like, I'm just a regular guy. I never thought you were a big stud. Just you made me feel that way, at least.
All right.
But I was like, now I've got to fulfill on this.
Right.
And what I learned very quickly was, what we were doing, the businesses don't grow, people do. That wasn't just a one time, one business model.
Yeah.
That is a real thing.
Yeah.
When you talk about having a business with purpose, and when you talk about having core values and those types of things, those are real things. And so, that I very much believe that systems are the solution.
Yes.
Which is paying off immensely for this business. That I believe that self-improvement is a huge key to the growth of an individual, which then your business can't help grow, but because of it.
Right.
Developing people around you are you can't let your business grow without people growing, and so you got to develop other leaders, and then through that you get to have a never expanding influence. Which those are the four passions of what that company was, Defenders.
Right.
And now I just take those on as my four passions,
right.
Because that's what was instilled in me by great, amazing leadership. I don't know if he'll watch the podcast or not. I hope he does. I hope other people that at Defenders do get to watch this podcast. But I'll never forget the blessing of the Lindsay family and those that were surrounding me. And I'm so excited to now, this next chapter, get to be here. And why we're doing this podcast, because of the experiences that you and I have,
right.
that we don't want to just hold to ourselves, and we want to share with people.
Yeah. And it's not just about stuff like we've went through our past, but, it's about the things like currently we're buying our first commercial real estate together.
Yeah.
We've started one other business.
Is that scary for you, by the way, at all?
That one's not.
It's not. Okay, it's not for me either. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Well, I feel like
it's a big investment.
It is a big investment, but it's also
calculated.
It's calculated around our businesses, which I have confidence in.
Yeah.
Right. But we've also started another business that is complemented from the current roofing business.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one that we're striked to start first of the year and actually partner with an existing business.
No, well, it's not TBD. Yeah, it's already been deed.
Yeah, well, they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
But, so it's these things. It's not just, hey, we've told you our stories, and these are the things that we can tell you from it, but we are actually going to be doing these things and starting early businesses. We got early businesses and ones from scratch where we can go through these things that we're learning, implement the things that, like, it's interchangeable, like we discussed.
Right.
So, hey, these are all the things that we've learned from the past. We can put them in here and then see, hey, how does that correlate with this business? What are the things that we can learn from this? What are the things that we can share from this? Because ultimately, this entire podcast is about, one, having fun,
Right.
But we want to bring a lot of value that we're learning on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. It's one thing when you can learn a lesson from your own mistakes.
Right.
Being able to learn that lesson from someone else, that's the definition of mentorship, number one. So,
Yeah.
maybe this needs to be marked as a mentorship.
And parents, like that's what you want to teach your kids. Like, hey, trust me, I did this.
Exactly. But, to learn from our mistakes. And by the way, we're not doing this because we think we're perfect.
No, absolutely not. by far.
At all.
Yeah.
So don't need those comments. We don't we don't think that we're perfect. We want to be raw. And again, for me, it's again, my purpose to help people maximize their full potential. And I'm not going to take those learnings that I've had and hold them to myself. I want to be able to give those freely to others that can help them in the situation that they're at, whether that's business, whether that's life, whether that's parenting, whether that's beating you at battle putt.
He doesn't beat me at battle putt.
Dude, come on.
It doesn't
You
matter.
have to give me battle putt.
Anyway,
The pool table is
it's like
yours.
a 50-50 on
pool
battle putt.
Is it?
It is.
Is it?
The only reason you won that $100
Is
is
it?
because Adam Schock pulled the game for you. I'm still certain that you slipped him some money.
I didn't,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to disagree.
Adam Schock, if you watch this ever, you owe me.
Yeah.
Actually, he paid me $50, I think, for that. He paid me half the 100.
That's terrible.
Yeah, because he felt so bad about it.
He should. No, he shouldn't.
He should.
He did
should.
everything he could.
Anyway, so yeah, no, I get it. This is one of those things that's your goal in life to lead and help people along. I just thoroughly enjoy sharing the knowledge and things that I pick up because like I've taken
You're
lot
so
of
free
lumps.
with it too.
Yeah.
And that's again what I love. Number one, you're a lifelong learner, which I appreciate, and the way that you learn is exciting to watch. But you don't hoard that and hold that.
No.
To the point that it also, as the leader of this roofing
bothers
business,
you.
makes me nervous because I'm like, don't give that secret away to. I don't care that their business is in Florida. Like, don't tell them that. But
That wasn't directed at you, Brian, if you watch this.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. Just an example. But at the same time, like, no, I feel like we should be able to help each other out in business, and whether we're in the same industry or not, like there's things that we should be able to share.
No, absolutely, and I understand from where you came from, like it was like closely guarded. But here, I feel like I'm friends with a lot of roofing contractors in Indiana, quite a few, and we're all friends. We get along. We go to games together. We hang out. We do stuff together. There's so many roofs here. We couldn't do them all if we wanted.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So, and this isn't just, locally, but anybody, if there's one person, this is fun to me. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to you because I'm learning stuff about you. Like, this is deeper than we've always kind of just glazed over these conversations. Like, hey, this is what I did for a little bit. Here's a 5-minute summary. So this is the deepest I've ever went with you on, kind of backgrounds and things, which is really cool. So it's fun for me, but to share knowledge and maybe somebody one day goes, hey man, you really helped me there. Or, hey, I saw this and, it ended up, working out. And that's exciting for me because it's like, hey, I didn't get smacked on the head with this thing 3 times for nothing. Like I shared it and somebody else avoided that. So I'm looking forward to, all of the things to come as not only our current knowledge, but what we learn moving forward. Yeah.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So again, we're going to focus on a lot of different things. And so now we've officially made it up to, like I said, June 10th of 2021, and here we are now. We're past that point, but as it goes in our stories, and we've partnered together really well.
Yes.
It is. I love getting feedback from people that know us well, whether it be a vendor or a supplier, or I always love the comments of people just sit and watch us. I don't know if you ever pick up on that, but like I watch how people sit and watch us, and it's fun. And then they'll make the comment like, "You guys are so different, but it works."
Yeah.
And it's I think it's a lot of, and we're also we're same.
They're similar in aspects, but you're very systems person, organized processes, and I'm shooting from the hip. Yeah, spreadsheet man
which
over
makes
here.
Which makes me laugh though, because I've got some friends that are like real spreadsheet people. Like I'll give their first names, like Bart and Robert and Ryan. Those 3 guys.
And you're the baby spreadsheet guy?
Yeah, Bart was literally making fun of my math 3 days ago in this very building.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, man.
That's why you came here, because you're like the spreadsheet master
Yeah.
over here. That tells you the truth. Like, it's like my spreadsheets are the greatest, and nobody here can dispute me.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. Well, this is awesome. I think that's good for the first episode. It's just, an intro for everybody to get to know us. For those that don't know us,
where we're coming from.
It's where we're coming from. But we look to really share what we're going through. What we're building. We look to have a lot of people on. If you guys, have somebody that you go, hey, this would be a perfect person to fit, a little bit of talk about business, a little bit about life, and a little bit about fun, give us a shout, let us know, and we would love to talk to them.
Awesome. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and can't wait already to do the next one.
Awesome. All right. We will see you guys next time. I don't know how to do an outro. What should we do on this one? What do you do?
I feel like we should look into the camera and
camera.
say, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, smash that like button, as they say. My favorite part, just real quick, and I also want to shout out to our producer, Durango, who does an awesome job, and we're so thrilled to have him on our team with this. But I always laugh at the people like, because I just saw you point, like hit the.
That's what I'm begging.
There's going to be a link below, but then a link is up top or something like that.
Durango, don't put it over here and make me look like an idiot. All right. Also,
Durango,
I've decided.
I'll give you $5 to put it on the opposite side of wherever he just pointed.
I'll give you 6 not to do it. But I think we need those lights too, because you're looking at that. What if he uses the middle camera like this?
Yeah, who knows?
All right, man. You got to make this magic work, Durango.
That's the wrap. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
All right.